Greetings, scholars. It is your favorite third grade teacher, Mrs. Jones. I'm back with another lesson. The title of today's lesson is Generating Measurement Data. Our standard for today states we are going to generate measurement data by measuring lengths using rulers marked with halves and fourths of an inch. Show the data by making a line plot where the horizontal scale is marked off in appropriate units, whole numbers, halves, or quarters. By the conclusion of this series, you'll be able to explain what a line plot is and demonstrate how it can be used to display data. You'll be able to generate measurement data by using lengths, using rulers marked with halves and fourths of an inch, and you'll be able to show that data by making a line plot. Our vocabulary for this lesson is line plot, data, frequency, ruler, halves, fourth, and inch. Some of these terms may be familiar to you, or you may be familiar with some of these terms, and some of these terms may be new. So a line plot is just another type of graph that can display data. Data, again, is just another term for information. Frequency is a new term. So frequency is the amount of time you see an object or a number. So how often do you see it? What is the frequency of the data? Ruler is a tool that can be used to measure objects. Halves, fourth, and inch will be forms of measurements as far as this lesson goes. What is a line plot? A line plot is a way to display the frequency of data along a number line. Line plots are also considered to be graphs. So as we've discussed, graphs have to have certain things. As you can see, this graph, both of these graphs have titles, labels, it has your data, and it tells you the voters or how they are represented. So the first one is talking about candy bars, and it shows you the frequency of each type of candy bar that was voted for. So they liked, for candy bar number 5, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. The frequency of those who liked candy bar number 5 was 4. For the next one is types of movies. You have your labels down here and your voters up here. We can assume that each of these X represent 1 because our key, or there's no scale or key to offer us any other type of information. Based on the frequency of X's that, or the frequency of amount of people who voted for mystery was the most favorable, and animated was the least favorable, okay? All right, let's take a quick look. So in this video, I measured a couple of things around my office, and I collected the data, and I'm going to plug that data in a graph, which you'll see later on in the lesson. Okay, so for the next portion of our lesson, we are going to measure a few items in order to collect some data. That data that we collect, we are going to input on our line plot. Again, we're going to measure a few items and then collect that data. Again, data is what you need for any graph because that shows what you are trying to display to your audience. So again, our data for this particular graph is going to be the measurements of various office items. For our first piece, or our first object, we are going to measure some sticky notes. When you are measuring, be sure that you don't start at the end of the ruler. Start where the measurement starts. So it's going to be that first line right there, okay? I'm going to put my sticky notes right at the start of that, and it looks like this particular item is going to measure 3 inches, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and collect that data, 3 inches, and put that aside. I just marked it down on a little sticky note. The next item we are going to measure are my little tabs that I use in order to make notes in my books or something like that. And we'll do this side. We're going to start that first line again. And based on our measurements, that is 4.5 inches, okay? So see this line right here is directly in between the 4 and the 5, which makes it 4.5 inches. Okay, making a note of that. The next item we are going to measure is going to be my little timer, okay? So this is kind of weird how it's set up, so I'm going to sit it like this so that you guys can still see the measurement on the ruler, okay? All right, it looks like that is also measuring 4 inches, so I'll record that. Right now, we don't have any objects that are the same length, but we're going to continue to measure. Then I'm going to stop the video just to measure a couple of other items, and we'll come back and look at our data. The next item is a stapler, okay? And it looks like this stapler has a measurement of 5 inches. So right now we have 4 different objects in the office, and all of them are measuring at different rates. We have 3 inches, 4.5 inches, 4 inches, and then 5 inches. I'm going to stop the video, and I'll come back with a few more items that I have measured, and then we're going to look at our data and plot them on our line plot. Okay, so after measuring a few more items, this is the data that I collected. 3 items measured at 3 inches. So I have sticky notes, computer mouse, personal pencil sharpener, and lotion. 2 items measured at 3.5 inches. That was where my note tabs, as well as a pack of playing cards. 2 items measured at 4 inches. That was my timer and my eraser for my dry board. And 1 item measured at 5 inches, and that was my stapler. After getting all of this data, I want to make it organized, right? I want to make it a little bit neater and easier on the eyes. So I decided to use tally marks. Over here, I have all of my measurements that happened to come up as I was measuring. I have 4 items that measured at 3 inches, so I put 4 tally marks. I had 2 that measured at 3.5, so you have your 2 tally marks. 4 inches and 5 inches are my last 2. So for the 4 inches, I have 2 tally marks, and for the 5, I have 1 tally mark. All I did when I was creating my line plot was I put all the numbers. Now, keep this in mind. You can't skip numbers. So although these measurements did not appear when we were measuring our items, you still need to put those in. That just lets the audience know, or whoever is viewing your graph, that there were no items that measured at 1 inch, none that measured at 1.5, 2 or 2.5, okay? The first measurement that we see where objects are represented is 3 inches. So since I have 4 tally marks, I'm going to put my 4 tally marks here, okay? I'm just plugging them right in. Here it has 3.5, and you have your 2 tally marks, so I just plug them 1, 2. I have 4 inches, and I have my 2 tally marks. There was nothing for 4.5 inches, so I'm going to leave that blank. And lastly, I have 1 tally mark for 5 inches, so I just plug that 1 tally mark in. So it's super simple. The most difficult part is probably going to be trying to measure your items, especially when we start to measure to the nearest fourth. The nearest half is pretty easy, but to the nearest fourth may be a little bit more difficult. But we're going to lean on our understanding and our skills that we learned when we're talking about fractions. That's going to really help you when you are trying to measure objects that don't fall to the nearest inch or to the nearest half inch, okay? So after you have viewed this video, I would suggest that you review it once more before you take your ticket out of the door. Your ticket out of the door is going to be named Intro to Line Plots, and it will have the date beside it. You are going to take that 5-question quiz. The quiz questions are going to be very simple. You are just looking at a graph, a line plot. It's going to be the same line plot for all 5 questions. And you are looking at that graph, and you are going to just simply interpret the data. Please make sure that you pay close attention and you do your calculations correctly, okay? So I know sometimes we like to rush, but this should be an easy A for everybody unless you miscount or you are rushing. So again, please take your time so you can be successful on that. I will talk to you guys later. Have an amazing day.